are watching Greenway Startups, the place to be to learn how to run a business and how to have a life you want. My name is Brigitta Balai. Many of us care about the environment. We believe making a positive impact on the environment on an everyday basis with some care is simple and easy. It's something that everyone can take action on. Kevin Meyers, one day after a long run, wondering how much he wasted water taking a too long shower, he did take action. He came up with a product that he named ShowerSaver. The ShowerSaver is a green product that provides a real-time information about the water consumption and duration of the shower. ShowerSaver, after 7 years preparation, is finally available for retail purchase. In today's interview, you will learn not only how to kickstart a green product to the market, but also get inside tips how to design and manufacture a product overseas. Stay with us. Kevin, welcome to the Greenway Startup Show.
Thank you very much.
Please let us know about your product, the ShowerSaver.
Yeah, so the ShowerSaver gives you real-time information on your shower. So it tells you how long you've been in there and how many gallons or how many liters of water you use. So the idea is that normally when you're in the shower, you're just cleaning yourself and you don't have any awareness. But by providing this information to everyone, you can be more aware of your shower and keep your shower to a more appropriate time, which helps to save water and energy and the related carbon emissions.
How did you get to the idea to implement this product?
So it's an interesting story. One day, about 7 years ago, I was out running.
7 years ago?
7 years ago. I've been working on this. So I was out running. It was a cold winter day, and I came in and I got in the shower, and that's all I wanted to do was just take a shower. And I was in there a really long time. I was under the hot water, and it felt really good, but I actually all of a sudden realized that I had been in the shower way too long. I didn't know how long, but I knew that it was a long time. So I kind of said to myself, you know, it would be really interesting to know how long I was in there, and it would also be cool to know how many gallons of water I used. So I went on my computer and did some research, and all I found was some simple timers. There's even an hourglass with sand that you could buy.
Okay.
But I said, you know, it'd be great if someone made something that actually was kind of like a cool tech product, and it gave you the information instead of just a clock or instead of just the sand. So,
are you yourself into environmental protection personally?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what made the transition from me saying I would like to have this, and when I went on the internet I couldn't find anything. So I said I think other people would also be interested, and they would want to know kind of the same thing, so I could help people. And I think growing up, my parents just always taught me to recycle and to, you know, to value what we have, value our resources, and I love being out in nature. So I just thought, you know, what a good way to bring those qualities, and I decided to make the product.
So it was 7 years ago, right?
It was 7 years ago.
So I do believe, Kevin, you are not an engineer, right? So how did you get from the idea stage to the actual product? Do you have a designer? How do you get a prototype out from your idea?
Well, things don't happen overnight. And yeah, my background is in finance and marketing. So I have no engineering skills, but what I did was I kind of searched the internet, and I think that's a great thing about today is that we have the internet, when 20 years ago we didn't. So if you want to know how to do something, you really can just go on Google and search. So I went on and I searched, and I found a firm that does designs.
In New York?
In New York, yeah. I was in Long Island at the time. So I called the firm and had them, I went in and met with them and gave them my vision and had them kind of do some mock-ups for me.
Is
So
there
it's-
any specific designer you have to look for, like for consumer end products, or is there any recommendation you can give it to us, like what should I enter to Google search?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what, exactly what you're doing, kind of what your concept is. I think that's always the best place to start, because I actually did a Google search because I wanted to buy one.
Okay.
But then I realized that, all right, I couldn't find anyone who had it. So I really just, I Googled since mine was kind of a consumer product, I Googled designers and, engineer, and kind of, that's how I found the firm. But the 7 years comes into play because it actually took a lot longer than this first firm I found. They were they were nice, they were good people, but the designs that they came up with, I was not happy with. So even though I'm not a designer myself, I kind of saw my vision and I said, all right, this doesn't really line up with my vision. So I went back to the drawing board, tried to find another designer, and the price ended up being really high. So, I gave it a little bit of time off while I was waiting to try to find another alternative, and I found a third firm. So the third firm had a much better price point because this is where globalization comes in. So the designer and the engineers were in New York, but the designer and the manufacturer was in China.
Okay.
So I ended up going through with them, and unfortunately the same problem occurred, even though I had spent more money at this point. And the problem here again was that the design was done overseas, and that design wasn't really an aesthetic for the US market.
So your designer was in China.
Yes, the designer was in China.
And as well the manufacturer. So let me stop at this point and let me ask you, so if you have a specific product in your mind, the designer is also responsible to make sure that mechanically, like from technical point of view, the product will work as well.
Yeah, so I'll take a step back. So what ended up happening was, I think in this application, you really have to see what product you're making and what it's for. And since this was for consumers, that relationship didn't end up working out. So that's part of what took 7 years. So finally, this last manufacturer recommended to me a consultant, and they said, he said, I've worked with him in the past, maybe he can help you kind of come to the design that you want. So that's when this gentleman was a consultant. He was an electrical engineer, and then he recommended an industrial product designer who had done a lot of design in his career. So that's where I think it's really important to make sure that you have an idea of what something's going to look like, and it costs a lot of money to have a really good design done. So we had
Can you give us a range, because we talk about startups, right?
Yeah.
So can you give us a price range that what is a designer cost?
Yeah, well, the first firm that I had talked to, it was only a few $1,000s. And then the next firm that I had talked to, they were the ones who kind of said, hey, this is going to cost, I think they said this is going to cost about $75,000. So that includes anything from the design to the prototype to kind of get everything ready for production. But at that point, I had no idea that it was going to cost that much. I thought, when I first thought of it, I said maybe it'll cost me $10,000 total.
So your original plan was that you finance the product yourself.
Yes.
So what happened when it turned out that it cost $70,000?
Well, so as I kind of went through these different designers, so the third one, which was the one that had the engineer here, but the designer was in China. Their price was a lot lower than the 75. It was only 10,000. So I said, there, I knew that I didn't have to pay 75,000. I could just pay 10,000, and that everything would be great. But unfortunately, we saw what happened with that, and when I did meet this final designer, the one that actually designed the ShowerSaver and the engineer, he was up front with me, and he said, unfortunately, it is going to cost about 75,000 because he was making 150 an hour, and the other guy was making 150 an hour. So you have to make the commitment. But yeah, the cost is significant.
So you accepted the cost of $75,000.
Yes.
Where did you have the money from?
So yeah, at this point, I felt that I was invested enough. I had spent a lot of time on the project, and I also was getting a lot of good feedback from just friends and family. So I was able to, through personal savings, and I had a partner at the time, and also through friends and family, I was able to fund that and get our first few prototypes.
So you had your prototype.
Yes.
Was it a 3D design prototype? We have 3D printers nowadays. So what was the material you made the prototype from?
It was interesting because I think 3D printing, it was probably a little bit early. Now it's amazing. Now you can get anything 3D printed, even food. And at the time, our designer said he kind of had methods that he had done in the past. So it was a good learning experience for me to see how it was done. So really, they had different suppliers. They went to a company that does plastics, and so they had a kind of I guess it is almost like 3D printing. I saw a YouTube video on the technology on how they made the prototype. So basically it was a bath of plastic, and then a laser kind of shoots in that bath of plastic and emerges this amazing piece of plastic. So now I think that's another great thing for entrepreneurs now. You can get a lot of stuff 3D printed because I had 3D drawings done anyway for that other process, and it's probably a lot cheaper.
So then how did you move from a prototype to manufacturing? Where did you have the funding for?
Well, we tested out. We got some prototypes. We tested it out with some friends and family. We wanted to know before we went into production, any kinks, anything right, anything wrong. The biggest thing we figured out was that we wanted to put a delay into the sensor, because it automatically senses you when you get in the shower, so you don't have to hit start every time, which I think is a cool feature. But what would happen is if you went to soap your feet or something, when you came up, it would reset. So we got those kinks out, and I decided that, kind of looking at everything, that I wanted to try crowdfunding.
So you started a Kickstarter campaign?
Yes, I started a Kickstarter campaign. Didn't know what I was doing. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful. I think the biggest thing that I would say about crowdfunding is it's not necessarily about the quality of the idea. The success is not tied to that. I don't know if you saw recently, someone crowdfunded potato salad.
Oh, potato salad?
And I think they made $45,000. So I felt a little hurt because I'm trying to save the world a little and have people save water and energy, and someone put a $10 goal on Kickstarter and for potato salad, and the reward was you get to eat some of his potato salad at a party, and he made $45,000 from it. So I guess that's kind of an interesting lesson to learn, and it shows that how it's viral. So people thought it was funny, people thought it was cool. I'm going to donate $10.
So what is the secret then, what you learned?
Well, I think it's all about social media, and it's about leveraging relationships, as many people as you know, but it's really people you know virtually. So you should be on Twitter, you should be on Facebook. So as a business, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, that's the part where I probably need the most help. because it is difficult to kind of do all the other aspects of business, but then also be an expert and try to figure out how do you reach those people. I think the ShowerSaver has a lot of people out there who could benefit from it. You know, you can teach your kids about water conservation. It's fun, but it's actually letting people know that it's out there. Most people don't know this product is out there and available.
And after the Kickstarter campaign, did you move to angel investors or venture capital?
Yeah, so it was unfortunate that you know, that the campaign didn't work, and I will say I made such a big deal out of the campaign, and I was so excited. And when I failed, you know, it wasn't the end of the world. As an entrepreneur, you should always move forward. And so I was able to take some of my retirement savings. I took a loan from that, and I also went back to some family who helped out because, you know, they saw the vision and they wanted to help. So I did get, the Kickstarter was to do my first production run of 1,000 units, and I now have those units and they're ready to go, and you can go on Amazon if you want to buy one.
At this stage, would you look for angel investors?
Yeah, so I think Shark Tank has kind of brought a lot of people's you know, attention to being an entrepreneur and products. And one thing I kind of learned from that is you want to make sure you have somewhat meaningful sales, or if it's too early, you might not get a good valuation. So for me, actually, the strategy is I'm looking at a lot of wholesale clients. I'm talking to hotels because hotels are very into green and sustainability. And what I'm saying is this is how you empower your guests to actually help be green, help the hotel be green.
So this is your green campaign around the green product.
Exactly. So that's kind of the strategy, and I want to make a few. I'm making good traction right now, good progress, but I want to make a few deals on the wholesale side so that I can, if I go to investors, I can say, look, I was able to do this, and this is kind of where the business is going. So
what is the really the good point that how you can basically talk to your clients? What are the points that you are using to sell your product? It's a green product. I do guess like hotels and bigger customers, they're not especially looking for a green product to use, but they are more interested to cutting their cost.
Exactly.
Right?
So the way I also designed it is I want to make sure that it is about the guest. So the hotels I'm talking to now, they understand that there's a lot of studies out there that say just by giving people the information, they're actually going to change their behavior. There was a study done at Carnegie Mellon that basically gave people information about their workstations, about how much energy they were using. So like most people at work, you're not paying the power bill at the office, but just by giving people the information about how much energy they were using, I think on average about the reduction in their power usage was about 35%. So
35%.
35%. So it's very powerful. So I think even a 10% savings from the ShowerSaver, going from, again, when you're showering, you don't have anything, you don't have any information normally, you just have water coming at you. Now you have this cool thing on the wall that's telling you, and it really does enact behavior change. So that's kind of what I'm talking to them about. So that's the return side that you're talking about, but I'm also saying, for the guest, that we're not capturing any of this information from the device. The hotel's not using it. They're not billing you for the water you're using. It's just for you, and it allows you to make the decision you want. And earlier, hotels, they used to not have anything in the room, and then they started saying, well, if you hang the towel up, then we won't wash your towel.
Yes.
And then they're saying, if you put this card on the bed, we're not going to clean the bedding.
Yeah, at this stage, mainly you are targeting big customers like hotel chain.
Yes.
Going back to the manufacturer question, How did you find your manufacturer, and what is your recommendation how to do a due diligence?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So the engineer that I ended up using, he's been in the industry quite a long time, so he was very knowledgeable, and he kind of held my hand through a lot of this. But a lot of it I had to do because otherwise I would have to pay him $150 an hour, which I'm not a corporation, so I didn't have that. But he was really good with guiding me on what to do. So the first surprise for me is that I just thought that I could reach out to any manufacturer and say, this is what I would like, please give me a quote. What I learned was, and what he told me was going to happen, he said that most firms, they're not even going to respond to you, because you would think that they want to do as much business as they can, but actually to work with an individual, to work with a small company is a big risk for them. So I ended up sending out, they put a pack together, they call it, between the engineer and the designer, and that includes all the design, the exact specifications, every kind of screw, bolt, processor, resistor, transistor, everything you need goes in there, and that's what I had to send out. So I sent out to about 15 manufacturers, and I sent some out to the US. I sent some were purely US, where they would actually manufacture it here. Then some of them it was a US sales, but it had either a European or an Asian component where they would manufacture it there. And then finally I reached out to some that were purely in Asia. And I really wanted to manufacture it in the US. Unfortunately, it's still, even though the prices are changing, and you might read in the papers these days that manufacturing coming back over here, still for electronics, it is difficult to get a good price point here. So I did only hear from about half of the companies I reached out to, which was actually a pretty good rate.
And how could you ensure that you found the right manufacturer?
Well, in this case, I got really lucky because the gentleman that was my engineering consultant, he had recommended one company out of the ones that I reached out to, and he had worked with them before. So this means
so networking again.
Yeah, it was
it's
already
very important.
It was already familiar, and it was something where I didn't have to do as much due diligence. So in the end, they actually had a great price, and that means I didn't have to go to China to kind of go check it out. I already knew that, it was a real company, and it was actually a fairly big company, and they had done a lot of work with, with this engineer. So.
And what is the margin range you can use for a green product?
As far as my gross margin?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
For a green product, in average, like 10%, 20%.
Well, it's interesting because I needed advice too on when I was looking at my pricing and my cost. So, what do I need? I want to build a company. I'm going to have employees. So, what do I need as a manufacturer to actually, figure this out, and what kind of margin? So, the number that I got from talking again, networking, talking to different people was, you want to try to get 50% gross margin. Where I'm at now is nowhere close to that. I'm actually on my first 1,000 units. I'm not really making much at all. But I kind of did an analysis of the future, and I tried to model where eventually I could get my price down. So really, I wanted to make the price a fair price to consumers, and then eventually I can make up my margin.
So, Kevin, how do you see the future of your company?
Well, the future's bright. I really think this is a product that can help people, especially with the drought in California and other parts of the world. So I see it as hopefully being everywhere where there's a shower, which could be anywhere in the world. Most people shower every day if we're fortunate enough. So that's my vision.
Also, is your product available for end customers?
Yeah, so the product's available through my website. It's www.greenstartshere.com. And if you go, there's several places where you can go look at the ShowerSaver, and then you can click through and have a partnership with Amazon, so you can buy it on Amazon.com.
Okay.
It's easier to find through my website, but some people have also found it just by searching on Amazon.
Do you have any quantity range you want to reach the next 1 year?
You know, right now, I would love to make a deal with a wholesale client, whether it be a hotel or a university, just to really validate my business model, and then I can set my aspirations higher.
And as a last question, what would be your recommendation for our audience watching this show today, and they are thinking about to start and create a product? What would be your recommendation? I
would just say that you should stick with it. If you really believe in it, you can find a way to make it happen. It's been a long road, and I've spent a lot of money, but it's not really about the money. I've been fortunate enough to have friends and family support me, but that's my advice, is just to stick with it, believe in it, and you can make it happen.
Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
And good luck to your
Thank you. Hopefully
product.
I can report back soon that I have some big sales.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.